What if the giant's fall was no natural decline? Conjunction, grasses mutagenic burned wild. A witcher's experiment, not a blade, unraveled their kind. Mutagenic tinctures, 70% fatal, seeped into soil, blood, breath. Forests seeped into Cho, breath turned, the earth itself recoiled. Giants did not die, they became something else. A plague of broken forms, not monsters, but echoes of a mistake. What does a world lose when its titans twist into silence? The cost of meddling was never just in the vial. The giants fell not to time, but to a vial's miscalculation. The conjunction of the spheres tore reality. Its titans, its Cyclops, were exiles, not invaders. A mutagen meant to mend human flesh, instead, unraveled the fabric of their existence. What survived was not balance but rot, forests choked with half-formed horrors, seas thick with the dead's whispers. The Witcher schools buried this secret deeper than their own alchemy. To cure one plague, they birthed another. What continent's monsters forgotten thrive when the kin beings, who titans or knew the world before it, became a wound? The cost of survival is a ledger of silent stars. What monsters thrive when the titans are erased? The answer lies in the hollow eyes of every creature that remembers. The conjunction's titans did not fall to blade or famine. Their demise hums in the marrow of every trial vial, a mutagenic echo. The wolf school's alchemists, desperate to refine the grass's formula, brewed serums that seeped beyond their labs. Smoke from their pyres stained the air acrid, a sickness that clung to wind and water. What began as a quest to bend humanity's limits became a slow unraveling. The first signs were subtle. A Cyclops herd found frozen mid-stampede, their eyes clouded with blackened sap. Then the giants, blisters that burst into ash. The twisting mutagen did not kill ecosystems into directly. Predator and prey. Forests shed their canopies, replaced by thorned vines that strangled. Rivers ran thick with a mucus that devoured scales and feathers alike. Witcher initiates, half-drowned in their own transformations, whispered of a countermutation. The grasses had not only reshaped men, it had unmade ancient balances. The 70% who perished in the trial. They were lucky, their failures ended swiftly. The survivors carried the true cost, a world where giants' bones were not buried, but dissolved, their essence repurposed by a magic too hungry to stop. The sacking of Kedwin's archives erased most records, yet in the wolf school's deepest vaults, a single vial remains. Its liquid shifts like trapped lightning, a relic, a warning. The conjunction brought titans. The Witchers brought the reckoning. The trial of the grasses was not a test of will alone, it was a pharmacological war zone. Geralt's own journal scrawled in fevered, Inkai script describe organs rewriting themselves, synapses firing backward, blood thickening into something that burned. 70% perished, the survivors became Witchers. Yet the mutagen, a volatile stew of alchemical compounds and elven DNA, was never fully stabilized. When Kaer fell, its vaults breached, vials shattered, and the formula's remnants were lost to ash or hidden. Or released, consider the Cyclops, their singular eyes, their grotesque symmetry. The giants, once mountainous, now reduced to feral hulks with malformed bones and erratic metabolisms. Their decline mirrors the trial's side effects. Could the mutagen uncontained have seeped into rivers, into the marrow of the earth? Imagine it, a rogue alchemist's spill, a vial dropped in the chaos of the sacking, its contents absorbed by the soil. The wilds, unaware, drank. The giant's biology was primed for disruption. Their cellular structure, like Witcher DNA, responded to mutagenic pressure, but where the trial refined, this force fractured. Cyclops herds, once apex predators, began to wither. Their offspring emerged with fused limbs, their senses scrambled. Giants, once noble in their crude grandeur, became violent, their growth spurts catastrophic, an ecological domino effect. What if the mutagen's reach extended beyond monsters? Purpose was to could not enhance distinguish host from humansto, make best host survive plagues, wars, the conjunction's chaos. Yet its formula, trials insentable, purpose was to could not enhance distinguish host from humansto, make best host. Did it target creatures with the same genetic vulnerabilities Witchers exploited, the evidence is indirect. But the pattern is there: mutation, collapse, extinction. The vial in the vaults, its liquid shifting like trapped lightning, is no relic, it is a mirror. The Witchers did not merely hunt monsters, they became the catalysts of an unseen holocaust. One that still hums beneath the soil, waiting. Ash still clung to the stones of Velen's hills. A peasant's voice, cracked by wind and smoke, spoke of calves found with eyes like molten glass, their bodies twisted into shapes that defied the laws of flesh. The Wolf School's library burned, scrolls blackened. The trial of the grasses, a formula once etched in blood and balance, became ash on a tongue that could not speak it. Witchers, orphans of their own craft, turned to alchemists' guesswork. The mutagen they brewed was no longer a scalpel. It was a storm. In Tau Saint, a witness to the beast of Beauclair's death wrote of how the creature's skin sloughed like a serpent's, yet its bones groaned with the weight of something older. Giants fell first, their thigh bones, thicker than oaks, crumbled to dust in hunters' hands. Cyclops, once kings of the highlands, wandered with milky eyes, their singular gaze clouded by a rot no silver could touch. The land mourned, rivers ran copper bright. What if the mutagen, untempered by the trial's checks, latched onto life that mirrored its design? Giants, Cyclops beings of altered genetics, their DNA a rough draft of what the trial once refined. The Wolf School's death did not end the experiment, it scattered it. Witchers, blind to the poison in their veins, became vectors. Every strike of their steel sheathed in a brew they no longer understood. A Velen elder speaking to a scribe in 1248 muttered of children born with too many teeth, their laughter sharp as broken glass. Mutagen's hunger did not end with muttered of children born with too many monsters' tea. It pooled in the soil, in the roots of yew trees, in the marrow of those who drank from them. The trial of the grasses was never rebuilt. The formula's loss was not a wound that healed. It was a door left open, and something or someone still walks through it. The Cyclops and Giants were not born of this world. They were echoes of the conjunction, sphere-displaced titans anchored to the continent by forces they could not name. Their biology was a mirror-twisted, but a mirror. The trial of the grasses' mutagen, lost and leaking, found them. Not by design, by resonance, a witcher's body is a battlefield. The mutagen's formula, though fractured, sought balance in imbalance. Creatures shaped by the same alchemical chaos, higher vampires, Leshens, the giant stoneblood kin became targets. The mutagen did not attack. It harmonized, and in that harmony, their forms began to unravel. Their forms whispered began to line in Book 3, ***, the unraveled grasses remember ** was no metaphor. The trial's remnants seeping through soil and stream bound to ancient flesh, a slow, spectral infection. The giants' bones cracked not from war, but from their own cells rejecting the laws of this sphere. Their fall was not a war, it was a slow unraveling, a side effect of a failed cure. What if their extinction was not natural? What if the wilds themselves turned against them? The mutagen's reach was blind, but its consequences were precise. Every creature whose form echoed the Witchers became a casualty, a chain reaction hidden in plain sight. The Cyclops' single eye, the giant's grafted musculature features that once defied the continent's logic now became their prison. The door left open after the sacking was not just the formula's loss, it was the mutagen's lingering presence. A ghost in the ecosystem, and ghosts do not forgive. 295 words. The Witcher mutagen's shadow does not fall on the Cyclops or giants. No scroll, no bestiary, no whispered legend binds them. The trial of the grasses cannot be recreated. Its formula, lost in the sacking, refuses resurrection. What if the void left by that loss is where the truth festers? The mutagen's effects were never fully understood. A single drop could still the heart of a beast or birth a new kind of hunger. The giant's bones in the earth, the Cyclops' last cries, what if they are not echoes of time, but of a mistake? A mistake that did not need intent to spread. The mutagen's ghost lingers where science ends. And science ends where the unnatural begins. What if the wilds still remember a cure that became a curse? The absence of proof bends like a blade, it does not have to be straight. The mutagen's reach was not confined to human flesh. If witchers were forged by alchemy's blade, what if that same blade unmade others? The trial of the grasses with its 710 death toll remains a formula of shadows unreproducible, unmastered. Yet its failure haunts more than scribed pages. Cyclops and giants vanished not by age, but by a rupture in the natural order. Their bulk, their strength mirrored in the Witcher template suggests a fatal symmetry. What if the same serums that sharpened human reflexes destabilized larger frames, a dosage too high, a threshold crossed? The wilds did not merely lose beasts, they lost ecosystems. And as monsters thinned, so did the schools that studied them. No elixir, no talisman can preserve knowledge when its subjects evaporate. The trial's mortality rate is a warning, not an anomaly. It whispers of a price paid in scales beyond human skin. If 70% of those tested perished, what percentage of the world's balance did the survivors carry? The Cyclops' last groan, the giant's final fall, were they echoes of a failed cure? The answer lies where the mutagen's trail goes cold, in the silence between species, in the gaps where witchers no longer train. The cure was never meant to spread, but vulnerability once mapped cannot be unmapped. The mutagen's shadow crept where witchers could not see. It pooled in riverbeds, clung to the fur of wolves, seeped into the roots of yew trees where giants once knelt to drink. Their kind did not vanish quietly. The last Cyclops' eye, clouded with fever, rolled in its socket as its body unraveled flesh to moss, bone to stone. Giants' hearts, too vast to stop all at once, stuttered for years, their groans shaking forests now silent. What Witcher archive dares catalog this? The pages would weep ink, the schools feel it first. Kedwin's towers, once alive with the growls of training beasts, echo with dust. Visima's alchemists grind powders for nothing. Sympathy, that old Lehumans wept for monsters while crafting their end. The Strigas, the Leshens, the Drowners and the Deepthea were not enemies. They were neighbors bound to the land's slow breath. Now their voices are ash in the wind. A child in Towsaint once asked Geralt why the hills no longer trembled. He had no answer. The trial's formula, shattered in the sacking, haunts in fragments. Each shard whispers, asterisk, you cannot unmake a poison. You cannot unbreak a world. Asterisk, the Witcher's art was to walk the line between species, but the line dissolved. What remains is a hollow huntman with silver blades, chasing ghosts in a forest that forgets its own name. The mutagen's true legacy is not in graves, but in absence. No more giants to guard the mountain passes. No more Cyclops to light the caves where ancient truths slept. The continent's oldest wounds are the ones it cannot name. And in the silence, the Witchers fade, their mutations meaningless without the monsters who made them. The cure was a bridge burned in both directions. What is lost cannot be undone, only mourned. Could the mutagen's spread have been a mistake, or did Witchers trade one horror for another? The trial of the grasses left bodies broken, flesh reshaping into monstrosities. 70% does, some screaming, some silent, their bones cracking as magic rewired their DNA. What if the giant's agony was not war, but a slower unraveling? A mutagenic plague, spilled in a single miscalculation. Forests once teeming with cyclopean footfalls now hold only twisted growths, their roots gnarled by the same alchemy that hollowed out hearts. The sacking of Kaer Morhen stole more than scrollsit buried truths. Did the lost formula hide a warning? A cost, the wilds still whisper. Rivers run thick with mutations no Witcher can name. What else did the trial rewrite? What else was sacrificed on the altar of survival? The past is a wound that never clots. You decide, was this catastrophe a mistake or a lesson ignored? The Leshen does not howl, it watches. The land's memory is not a wound, it's a mirror. What if the giant's fall was not an end but a prelude? The forest breathes, the forest remembers. What warning does it whisper?